Hey guys, today I'm going to replace the brake rotors and brake pads on my car. And I'm going to have my car on an inspection this week. Compared to the new rotors, you can see it's a lot of rust on my old rotors. And I'm going to replace the pads as well. Always when you have the wheel off the car, you always want to check if it's anything else you want to repair. So I'm always checking the boots, brake hoses, brake lines, and you want to check suspension, and you want to check any leaks, and always check your springs. And it looks like I have a broken spring. Yes, that's broken, so I have to replace the spring as well. Another common fail on these cars are the parking brake cable, but I replaced that only last year. But this spring has to be replaced, that's for sure. This is a 14mm. So now it's just to take off the caliper first. Here is a typical example of why you should check your brakes. So all the brake materials has come off the brake pad and they're totally separated. And the other doesn't look too good either. It is a lot of material, but you can see all the damages. And you see all the rust on the rotor. The next step now is to take off this bracket. And that's 2 bolts on the inside. And this screw is a Torx. It's a Torx 40. Always rinse out Torx and Allen bolts before you try to loosen them. And I just grabbed a bigger one because I'm going to use the impact. This is probably not a good idea. Okay, that works. You have to be careful with these bolts. And I will just use a big hammer. And it's off. This old rotor would never pass the inspection. So here in Norway we have to have our cars on inspection every 2 years. It's called EU control. This surface has to be very clean, and I will add some copper paste. And now I can reinstall the new rotor. This style of rotor doesn't need any cleaning, but on some it can be a thin layer of oil, so then you need to rinse it with a brake cleaner before you install it. That's very important. And you don't need to tighten this too hard. And it's important these pins slide easily. I think it's called slide pins. So you want to clean this and add some new grease. And of course you get a special grease for everything today. So this is a special grease for this task. And you don't need much. And it slides very nice and tight. And I do the other, of course. Here it's a bit worse. So you start to see some rust. And these pins can seize up totally. I've seen that many times. I'm gonna use some brake cleaner on this. This is just a small steel brush. And before you install these brackets, you have to rinse off the rust. And be careful with the boot. And you can also use a file to take off the rust. And before I install the new brackets, I will add grease on all surfaces. And this is the special grease, but you can also use the copper paste for this task. And I install the bracket. And now this is ready for installation on the car. Some cars requires Loctite on the bolts, but it is not common on this specific car. And I am adding copper paste on the touching surfaces. You don't need much. And always check that the pads are moving freely. And now the next step will be to reinstall the caliper. But because everything here is new, this distance is probably a bit longer than the old one because it's tear down. So now we have to push in this piston. And on this style of caliper, you can't just push it in, you have to twist it at the same time. So I will use a special tool to push in the piston. But before I even do that, I want to inspect the piston. This one looks very nice, so it's no rust under the boot. And I will try to add a special grease on the piston. And I do this all around. And if you have a bad piston, you can easily replace this. And these parts are dirt cheap. Or if you need to replace the seal or the boots, again, dirt cheap parts, easy to replace in the caliper. And you just find the part that matches with the piston. And it's this one. And this tool runs on compressed air. And you have a trigger, so it pushes and you can twist it at the same time. And you release it with this. So now I can put pressure and I twist it in. So again, you put on pressure and I just twist it in. Okay, so that's completely in, and then I just release it. And now this is ready for installation. And now this side is finished with the brakes. But before I reinstall the wheel, I have to replace that broken spring. So here we can see the old that broke. And I will replace both sides. So check out the difference on the new and the old. So it's a lot more heavy duty. So it's probably an upgrade, I don't know. Or this is gonna be a lot stiffer. So that's the reason I want to replace both sides. If the new ones are stiffer than the olders. Yes. Yes, yes, yes. Whew. Man, I have to wrestle with that spring. Whew. But it's on now. Okay, so check this out. Brand new brakes and new springs. And the only thing that remains now is to install the wheels. And I'm gonna install the summer tires. We are in April. Okay, so I have been driving the car for a while now and everything works fine. and the brakes are very good. And also make sure to check out some of my other videos. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.